Idiocracy was not supposed to work. It was too weird, too broke, and too dangerous for Hollywood. The creator of the Beavis and Butthead and Office Space was making this most ambitious star yet, and the studio was actively trying to destroy it. Behind the scenes, sabotage, career suicide, our director funding his own movie. Here are 20 insane facts about idiocracy, and they are stranger than dystopia it predicted. But first, let's see the stage in 2001. Mike Judge was riding high. King of the Hill was domination television. Office Space had found its cult audience on DVD. Fox wanted another movie, and Judge pitched them his wildest idea yet, a time traveling style about America's intellectual collapse. What could go wrong? Everything. Number one, Fox greenlight this movie to kill it. In 2006, 20th Century Fox did something unthinkable. They bought Mike Judge's script, hoping it would fail. This was not corporate incompetence, it was strategic warfare cinematography. Timothy Shelf witnesses the most brutal studio politics he had ever seen. It was the most egregious case where a studio does not want to make the movie, but they don't want another studio to have success with it either. Think about that for a moment. Fox would rather waste millions of their own money than risk a competitor turning Judge's comedy into a hit. They were playing chess while Judge thought they were making a movie. The script that would later predict corporate dystopia was already trapped into one side. Judge had no idea he was walking into a deliberate execution. The strategy was simple: give him just enough rope to hang himself, the point to the failure as proof that weird comedies don't work. The movie was dead before camera rolled, and everyone knew it except the filmmaker. Number 2, President Camacho did not exist until the last minute. Ridiculous wrestling-obsessed dictator is the soul of idiocracy. His over-the-top machismo, his WWE entrance to presidential speeches, his complete inability to go and it's the character that defines the entire film. But in Judge's original script, he was not there. The first draft featured something far more sinister, an operating system AI thing that was super annoying running America. Imagine HAL 9000, but designed by focus groups and advertising executives. It was satirically brilliant and completely unremarkable. When Judge showed the script to test readers, their reaction was lukewarm at best. Judge panicked. He realized that audience needed a human face for stupidity, not an abstract technological villain. So he scrapped months of the work and invented President Camacho from scratch. The rewrite took weeks of the frantic writing, completely restructuring the government, the plot, and the film's entire third act. The desperate last moment decision saved the movie. Without Camacho, Idiocracy would have been a cold technological satire. With him, it became a warm human comedy about our worst impulses. Sometimes panic makes better creative decisions than planning. But 3, the dictator started paying for his own movie. You're in a conference room at 20th century. Fox suits are arguing over a $3,000 visual effect while your artistic vision slowly stretches in budget meetings. Mike Judge had been thought his dance with Office Space, but Idiocracy pushed reaching for his personal checkbook to fund his own dystopian comedy while working for the studio that was supposed to be supporting him. This was not a one-time occurrence. Judge found himself constantly supplementing the products with his own money, paying for shots Fox dreamed, unnecessarily covering costs for effects they would not approve. He was essentially making an independent film while technically employed by a major studio. The irony was perfect. A movie about corporate greed was being strangled by corporate penny pinching, forcing the artist to become his own financier. Judge was living the dystopia. He was trying to satirize one budget meeting at a time. Number 4. Fox made history with literally zero marketing. No trailers, no posters, no newspaper ads, no TV spots, no radio campaign. Fox achieved something unprecedented in modern Hollywood. They released a major film with absolutely, completely, utterly zero advertising. Production designer Darren Gelford could not believe that. he was witnessing. It was the first time that Fox ever released a movie with zero advertising. Walk into a movie theater in 2006 and you would see blank spaces where Idiocracy posters should have been. Theater owners were confused, audiences were baffled, even Fox employees were not sure what was happening. This was not cost cutting, this was corporate assassination disguised as distribution. Compare this to other Fox released that year, X-Men. The last stand got a $75 million marketing campaign, Ice Age. The meltdown was everywhere, but Idiocracy, a film that would later define an entire cultural moment, was released like a state secret nobody wanted revealed. The marketing blackout was so complete that journalists could not even get promotional material to review the film. Newspapers ran blank spaces in their movie sections. Entertainment reporters had to hunt down bootleg copies just to know what they were supposed to be covering. This was not incompetence, this was sabotage with spreadsheets. Number 5. The cast hide this movie from their agents. This production was so chaotic, so career-threatening, toxic that crew members actively erased it from their professional histories. Darren Guilford, the production designer, made a confession that reveals the true horror of the working on Idiocracy. It was a huge strain on my career for years. I had to keep it off my resume for years to try and get another movie. Think about that. The people making what would become a prophetic masterpiece were ashamed to admit they worked on it. Hollywood had convinced them they were part of a disaster, conflict in a future that would make them unemployable. Agents were telling their clients to distance themselves. Publicists were advertising cast members to avoid mentioning it in interviews. Luke Wilson, the film star, watched this comedy get buried and wondered if his career had just ended. Maya Rudolph questioned her decision to take the role. Even Terry Crews, who delivered the performance of a lifetime as President Camacho, was not sure if he had made a massive mistake. The shame was systematic and deliberate. Folks had created an atmosphere where everyone involved felt like they were participating in something embarrassing and unprofessional. They had turned the production into a scarlet letter that cast and crew wrote for years, but the chaos was just beginning. Number 6. Mike Judge became Hollywood's most reluctant but inspector, creating the film within a film called as required Mike Judge to venture into uncharted directorial territory. First, he had to review dozens of the Polaroid photos of male buttocks sent by casting directors, sorting through anatomical submissions like a very specific art director. His mortified response, "I should apologize to give them having to do that." But the Bitox casting process was just the beginning. Judge then had to direct the actual ads movie screening, which required hiring 200 professional extras to sit in a Texas theater and authentically laugh at projected footage of a man's bare rear end for hours. The cinematographer had to frame this shot, the sound engineer had to record scene on laughter, the script supervisor had to track continuity. Picture the unreal professionalism required. Cut. Let's try that laugh again, but more enthusiastic. And remember, you are seeing this for the first time. Such was directing Oscar-worthy performance of people reacting to talks. The meta comedy was perfect. The creator of the Beavis and the Butt had two characters obsessed with juvenile humor, while literally directing people's reaction to most juvenile possible entertainment. Judge had created a movie within a movie that was both the dumbest thing ever filmed and a brilliant style of the audience manipulation. The whole experience left Judge questioning everything about entertainment. What are we doing? We should just release S? He genuinely thought his throwaway gag about rear ends might be more commercially viable than his dystopian masterpiece. Number 7. A fake movie title triggered a real police response. When the production put as in the large letters on a theater marquee for filming, they accidentally conducted a social experiment in American moral panic. Parents dropping their children off at nearby schools saw the sign and immediately assumed the worst. Phone calls flooded police stations. Local radio stations were bombarded with the complaints. The community response was swift and furious. Concerned citizens demanded immediate action. School administrators fielded angry calls from parents. Local news crews arrived expecting to investigate some kind of the pornographic public display. What they found instead was a small film crew trying to shoot a comedy scene about stupid entertainment. The reality was somehow more surreal than the fiction they were creating. Judge and his team found themselves explaining to actual police officers that they were not showing pornography. They were sanitizing the kind of the people who would get upset about a fake movie called as. The incident became a perfect real-world example of the mass hysteria that Idiocracy was satirizing. People were getting genuinely struggled, but about fictional stupidity while demonstrating actual stupidity in their responses. The dystopian future was bleeding into reality before they would have ever finished filming it. The police eventually left, but the experience stuck with Judge. He realized they were not just making a movie about American anti-intellectualism, they were surrounded by it. Number 8. The director moonlighted as hairstylist. Mike wore many hats on the Idiocracy set: writer, director, producer, financier, but nobody expected him to add emergency beautician to his resume. When actress Darlene Hunt's hair would not cooperate during the yuppie commercial shoot, traditional solution failed. The hair department was overwhelmed, time was running out, and Judge decided to handle it personally. Hunt's memory of the moment captures the film's style's desperation perfectly. Mike came in and was trying to fix my hair, which I thought was hilarious. Picture it: the man behind Office Space and King of the Hill, crouched behind an actress with a brush and hairspray, desperately trying to achieve the perfect stubborn mom aesthetic.
Come on, Fredo.
And this was not artistic vision. This was pure survival filmmaking. Judge had learned from his Office Space experience that it was something needed to get down, he would better to prepare to do it himself. The studio was not going to do extra her stylist. The budget was not going to cover additional crew. If Darlene Hunt's hair needed fixing, Mike Judge would fix it. The moment represents everything about Idiocracy production: understand, underfunded, understaffed, and held together by the filmmakers' refusal to quit. Judge was literally hands-on directing, solving problem in real time while trying to maintain his satirical vision. The hands-on approach extended into everything. Judge operated cameras, just adjusted lights, moved props, and even helped coordinate extras. He would become a man film crew disguised as a Hollywood director. Number 9. Fox hired the world's worst VFX supervisor to save money on the visual effect that would create Idiocracy's future world. Fox found the cheapest possible vendor and sent their least experienced supervisor to Texas. The results was catastrophically predictable. When the crew asked basic questions like, "What do you need from us?" the green screen, or "What's going to behind this post?" he would visibly panic. Cinematographer Timothy Sorested watched the man crumble under simple technical inquiries. He would get up flustered and nervous. This was not an inexperience, this was complete incompetence in a job that required precise technical knowledge. The supervisor could not explain what footage they needed. He could not communicate his requirement to the crew. He could not even describe what the final shot would look like. The disaster compounded daily shot that should have been simple green screen work became impossible, become nothing. Nobody knew about what to shoot for. Visual effects in sequences had to be completely reimagined because the supervisor had not planned for basic technical requirements. Post-production became a nightmare of trying to salvage unusual footage. Fox was so committed to sabotaging their own movie that they hired incompetent help. The company that would later spend $200 million marketing Avatar could not provide qualified visual effects supervisor for a $3 million comedy. And the future looked stupid in the film, and the present looked stupid behind the cameras. Judge found himself trying to direct visual effects he did not understand, supervised by someone who understood them even less. They were creating a movie about institutional incompetence while surrounded by institutional incompetence. Number 10. Deposition nature to film environmental collapse. Idiocracy's drought-stricken future world required landscapes of the dead brown grass. The visual proof that corporate stupidity had destroyed the environment, but they were filming during the wettest Texas summer in recorded history. Rain fell constantly, grass grew green and lush. Nature refused to cooperate with their environmental apocalypse. The solution was both practical and symbolically horrifying. They killed the living grass with the chemicals and plastic tarps while rain poured down and around them. They described this sickening process. You put a big tarp over it for several days and even pour gasoline on it. Such a bad vibe. Picture the crew's daily routine: wake up, check the weather forecast, and systematically poison the earth to make it look like an environmental wasteland. They were literally creating the ecological destruction they were trying to satirize. The irony was too perfect and too disturbing to ignore. Judge felt physically sick about the environment damage, killing grass while it ranging such as bad vibe. The production was destroying nature to film a movie about what happens, what humanity destroys nature. The metaphor had become reality, and reality felt dystopian. The grass killing became a daily ritual that broke everyone's spirit. Judge described the psychological breaking point. At a certain point, it went from a good vibe to thinking that this was movie was cursed from the beginning. They were not just making a movie about environmental collapse, they were living it one poisoned plant at a time. And then the accidents started turning into genius. Number 11. The Washington Monument became adult entertainment architecture. Production designer Darren Guilford early concept art revealed the true scope of his dystopian imagination. While designing the future Washington DC, he created something that was born architecturally brilliant and culturally appealing. A big Frank Gehry structure of a woman holding the Washington Monument like a striper pole. The design was Frank Lloyd Wright meets Las Vegas meets and Constitution crisis. America's most patriotic moment, the symbol of our founding father's integrity, transformed into the centerpiece of a stripe club. The concept had shout crowds gathering around this perverted landmark, cheering and throwing money while the monument and by extension American democracy was used to adult entertainment. Guilford's design philosophy was simple: take everything Americans hold scared and imagine how corporate culture would eventually monetize and sexualize it. The Washington Monument as striper pole was just the beginning. His unused concept included the Lincoln Memorial as a drive-through restaurant and the Capitol building as a shopping mall. These designing were too extreme even for Idiocracy, but they reveal how far Judge and his team were willing to push their strategical vision. They were not just imagining a dumber future; they were imagining a future with where nothing was sacred, where even national monument could be reduced to cheap entertainment. The fact that these concepts existed at all shows how deeply the filmmakers understood where American culture was heading. They were predicting the commercialization of everything, including patriotism itself. Number 12. Museum curators held boardroom meeting about fart exhibition. Local manager Shobi Spartos had Hollywood's most surreal job, convincing a prestigious cultural institution to host fake exhibits about flatulence. The Bob Bullock Texas State History Museum became ground zero for academic discussions about the artistic merit of the gas. The pitch meeting were master classes in keeping a straight face while discussing the absurd. Patrons would walk into a conference room full of PhDs, museums, directors, and cultural preservations, then announce, "We want to put up a big sign that says Museum of the Fart and we'll fill your exhibit with fake displays about the history of the human gas." Some curators embarrassed the comedy. They understand the satirical point about the degradation of the educational institution, but others were mortified by the prospect of their serious academic spaces being used for scatological humor. Even temporarily, Petros admits she's repressed those memories of the more difficult negotiation. The successful museums had to formally approve signage, exhibits, and visitor laws for displays that celebrated humanity's best functions. Professional converts had to discuss the placement of fake artifacts. Security teams had to prepare for crowds wanting to see the Museum of the Fart. The entire process was real-world example of idiocracy was satirizing the slow degradation of intellectual institution. The curators were literally participating in the dumbing down they presumably opposed all for the sake of the movie intellectual decline. Number 13. Real locations became dystopian sets. Austin and its surrounding areas were transformed into the world of a 2505, and the locations chosen revealed just the genius for finding the present day seeds of the future dystopia. The abandoned Austin airport became the White House, the Bob Woodstock Museum became the Museum of Fart Costco became an even bigger Costco. But the most brilliant location choose was using real places that already looked like Idiocracy's future. Strip malls, chain restaurants, and corporate complexes needed a minimal modification to become dystopian nightmare. Just realized that American commercial architecture was already halfway to the aesthetic he was trying to create. Austin Studio built the major interior sets, President Camacho office, the hospital, the jail, but the exterior world was largely just Texas filmed with the satirical eye. The movie production design succeeded because